I cheated on my husband on a work trip, ruined everything I had, now feels awful and unclean. I made a Reddit account to hopefully find some way to fix things between my husband and I. I would like to first of all say please don't send me hate. I can assure you with 100% certainty anything you send to me I have already told myself. I am just looking for advice on how I can fix things and we can be a loving couple again. 3 months ago I went on a business trip, 3-day trip. On the first night I went out for drinks with some of my coworkers. While out a man started flirting with me and I liked the attention. My husband has always been loving and supportive. He's handsome, in incredible shape, and he constantly compliments me. I don't know why I felt so gratified by this random guy but I did. After way too many drinks I went with him to his apartment and we had sex. Immediately afterwards I realized what I had done and left. I cut my part in the work trip short saying I felt ill and went home. I immediately confessed to my husband. I told him everything. Offered to answer all his questions. He just said he needed to go for a walk and when he came back he just asked me if I liked it. I was honest with him. I didn't. It was fumbly drunk sex with a man that clearly didn't care if I enjoyed it. This guy is nowhere near as good as my husband is. I told him all of this. He just stood there looking at me and told me he needed to go out for a bit to think and left again. He was gone for a couple of hours and finally stumbled back through the front door really drunk. He could barely speak, kind of drunk. This has now become an common theme since it happened. He's gone from drinking maybe 3 times a month at the most to drinking every night. And not just drinking but getting blackout drunk and passing out either in our backyard or on the couch. He started smoking cigarettes again. He's been blowing off our friends when they invite him out to events. He just goes to work, comes home, drinks and smokes, passes out. He hasn't gone to the gym since I told him. He used to go 5 times a week. He barely eats anything. Whenever I try to talk to him he just responds with short answers or mumbles. We had our first marriage counseling session today and he barely spoke. The counselor tried to get something out of him but he just did the same. Short answers or mumbles. I've offered everything I can think of to make things right. I've been doing the things he has always done for me. Make coffee for him each morning, tell him he's handsome, offer to do errands for him. He doesn't seem to care anymore. He just seems like a shell of his former self. I'm really scared. I've done something irreparable. I haven't seen him smile this entire time. 2 nights ago he came back from whatever pub he has been drinking at with a bloody nose and a black eye. I was horrified and tried to find out what happened. He just told me to fuck off. He started telling me I might as well go find that guy the first cheated with so I can be happy. I tried telling him I've always been happy with him but he threw it back in my face asking why I cheated then. I don't have an answer. I've spent these months racking my brain but I can't think of a single reason why I did it. He wasn't better looking, nicer, in better shape, more attentive, anything. That conversation when he came back with the bloody nose and black eye is the longest one we've had since I told him what I did. I don't know what to do. Have I ruined my marriage? I am asking the men here, is there something your cheating partner did that made you feel better? I'm lost. I love my husband more than anything and watching him spiral is killing me. Please, I need advice. Update. 3 months ago I strayed. I made a post a couple of days ago. The advice was really good and I've actioned some of it. I'm sorry if this post is too long but I need to get some of this out. A lot of the advice on my last post was to tell someone close to my husband what I did and to tell them that he needs help. I ended up telling his best friend. I asked her to come over 2 nights ago so I could explain why my husband has been refusing to see any of his friends and why he has been so absent. I told her everything. She rightfully so exploded at me. Called me terrible names and asked where he was. He had gone to a pub which since finding out has been his routine every day. She left telling me he'd be an idiot to not leave you. They came back home 20 minutes later and she told me to pack some bags because I needed to stay with my parents. I tried to argue but my husband told me to leave. I've told my parents as well now. They were confused as to why I was showing up at their house at 8 p.m. with 3 bags full of clothes. I sent him a text today telling him I love him and I'll do anything to earn back his trust. I also called his best friend to see if she's had any progress on his drinking. She told me he's gone to a group alcoholics session to talk it out and has seemed better. He's also poured out all the alcohol in the house. She has been staying with him to make sure he doesn't do anything crazy. I don't know if I can say the word here but you get what I'm saying. My parents are furious at me, especially my mum. She just keeps asking me why. My dad has barely spoken to me. Every time my phone vibrates I get a little panic attack. I'm terrified I'll get a message from him telling me he's done with me and never wants to speak to me again. I know I probably deserve him divorcing me but I'll do anything to make this work. I just keep thinking about that night. My husband is handsome, in incredible shape, loving, affectionate, compassionate, and the most caring man I've ever met, and I threw it away for shit sex with a douchebag I'll never see again. For someone that was lesser than my husband in every way. My sister even has decided she doesn't want to see me for a while. She doesn't trust me around her husband anymore. I'm sure all of his friends know what happened because all of them have blocked me on social media now. I deserve this and so much more. Sorry for the rant, I just need to get this out. I probably won't reply to many comments. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Please know that any advice is greatly appreciated even though I don't really know what I'm looking for right now. I just wish I could go back and stop myself. I wish I never went on that fucking business trip. I wish I was a better person and wife. I guess I'm realizing I never deserved him. Update. I know I shouldn't have, but I saw my husband today. I have quit my job. I'm using my saved up leave to get out immediately so I don't have to give them my final 4 weeks before being officially out of the office. Word has spread around my office what I did. I kept getting looks from my coworkers and I couldn't take it anymore. My first day off was today and I've spent most of it crying. I couldn't take it anymore so I drove to our house to speak to him. I know I promised him space but it was like someone was sitting on my chest. I was hoping we could talk. Part of me was also hoping he would be at work and I wouldn't see him because I know he doesn't want to see me. He was home. When I walked in the door he just looked at me expressionless. I told him I needed to speak to him. Just to hear his voice. He told me to just go back to my parents. He sounded so fed up with me. I tried telling him how I was feeling but he just said he needs time to think about everything. His best friend was there and she started yelling at me. Telling me to go. I tried saying I just wanted to speak to my husband and she laughed and told me I might as well start calling him my ex. He stopped her, which I appreciate, and asked her to give us some time to talk. She was clearly reluctant but did walk out of the room. I asked him if he was going to go to marriage counseling this week and he said no. He told me he doesn't know if we'll be able to make it past this. He doesn't see me as his wife anymore. I told him I wouldn't fight it if he wanted a divorce but if he was willing to give me a chance I'd do anything to earn back his trust. I told him I'd quit my job and I'd find one that meant I could work from home and I wouldn't take a trip anywhere unless he came with me. I'd only drink around him and only drink if he did. I'd give him access to my phone and social media. He'd have my location at all times. He just looked at me and said he isn't a prison guard and has no intention of becoming one. I tried telling him it isn't about being a prison guard, it's about showing him I'm serious about earning back his trust. He looked down and told me that was unlikely. He asked me if I've ever cheated before and I promised him I haven't. He asked me to explain what happened that night. All the details. I didn't want to but I did. He just looked at me the whole time silently listening. I didn't spare anything. I told him everything. He just asked me if that's all it took for me to destroy our marriage. Some guy offering to buy you drinks and compliment you is all it took. I was a mess at this point. I told him I was wrong and selfish. I had done something unforgivable, but I was determined to show him how much I love him. He just looked down and said it's clear I never truly loved him. I loved myself and what he could give me, but I didn't love him. I told him that wasn't true, but he just looked at me and told me it is. If I loved him I wouldn't have done this. That I had plenty of opportunities to not cheat, but I went through with it for my own selfish reasons, and that he didn't want to be with someone who could do that. He told me the thought of having sex with me now made him feel nauseous. That in his eyes I wasn't worth it. He told me he didn't need to hear any more, and me showing up to speak to him was proof I didn't care about his needs. He said he was going to find a divorce lawyer in the next 2 weeks and start the process. It felt like a knife in my chest. I begged him to wait till I was in counseling so I could make real progress for him, but he said I should anyway, but our marriage was over. He told me he'd be willing to split our money down the middle and sell the house so we could start our own lives again. He told me once the divorce was done he didn't want anything to do with me. He'd seen the true me and he didn't like it. He told me to grab anything I needed from the house and that the next time he'd speak to me would be with whoever he hires to be his divorce lawyer. I hate myself. I've ruined my marriage not even 5 years into it. I read all the comments on my last post and I appreciate all of them. A lot of them put a mirror up for me to see how awful I've really been. I'm sorry for not responding to all of them, but I didn't have answers for a lot of them. My counseling starts in 2 weeks and I'm still going to go. I told my parents what he said and my dad just said good for him and walked away. My mom just said consequences and hugged me. I tried talking to my sister, but she told me to go to hell whore. I appreciate everyone who reached out privately. Even the hateful messages. I deserved them all. I know he won't have any issue finding someone to be with. I just wish he wanted to be with me. Update. I've been struggling to sleep since I last saw my husband. I can barely sleep longer than 3 hours, and when I do sleep I keep having these awful nightmares. My counseling session is in a couple of days, but I'm not doing well at all. I can't really talk to anyone either because all of my close friends have been supporting my husband now that they know about my infidelity. My sister won't talk to me or return any of my messages. My dad is seeming to do everything he can to avoid me, and my mom has been very clear about how disappointed she is given my actions and has been giving me the silent treatment mostly, and if she isn't doing that she is just telling me how disappointed she is and not allowing me to open up about how I'm feeling. My whole life has collapsed around me. I understand that I don't deserve to be coddled, but I can't even speak to my parents about how I'm doing. I've barely been able to eat, I have no appetite, and most of what I do now is cry in my room at my mom and dad's house. I hate that the most recent sexual interaction I've had was with the man I cheated on my husband with nearly 4 months ago. I feel dirty. I keep showering, but the feeling doesn't go away. I just want to be with my husband. I know I have no right to feel like this, but I find myself daydreaming about being with him again like that. Even if just to make that my last intimate experience. I haven't heard from a divorce attorney yet, so there is some hope there, but I also haven't heard from my husband, so I don't know. I messaged his best friend who is staying with him currently to support him and make sure he's okay. She just replied with, "He's doing fine all things considered." She hasn't responded to any of my follow-up messages. I hate myself and what I've done. I don't know what to do with myself right now. Some things, once done, are irreversible.